GM, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Pinto Town Hall and Beaver Week. Uh, so we'll have a little more to say on what that is, but it's an exciting time on the farm. The way we are going to run this is how we've been running them recently, where we'll go around hearing from contributors. There will be an open period where people can bring up any questions, concerns, issues, thoughts, etc. And then if there's time at the end, I'll get on a little soapbox and talk about what's been on my mind and what I'm thinking about and how I'm analyzing the current performance of the protocol. All right, so let's get into it. Frijo, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. This past week, I've been working with Floyd Rainwater to get this landing page out. Looking really, really good. And I'll let Floyd talk about it more. I've also been working with default juice on a couple changes with the Beanstalk shipments. Sorry about that. I just recently a mid-review on part of the shipments right now and hoping to get that out so that he can remediate on it. And then, you know, I'm still working on the convert up bonus. Uh, Not to say it's my highest priority at the moment. Currently I'm working on the landing page and other things, but hopefully I can get that reprioritized very, very soon. There's one last thing we would like to change. The behavior to convert bonus, specifically when the crop ratio is below 100%, and maybe some auxiliary changes related to that as well. But that's what I'm on my mind this week.
Great. Thanks for that information. Very cool stuff. Personally, I'm very excited about the landing page. So maybe let's, in that spirit, kick it over to Floyd. I guess he's John Deere at the moment. Is that a name change, sir?
Uh, I mean, I'm still Floyd, but anyway, GM everyone. Um,
I see
we
John Deere. I see John Deere here.
what? How's that
See
possible?
Floyd.
Oh, now it updated to Floyd. I don't know. That must have been a Discord glitch. Apo- Apologies. Apologies.
That's fine. Anyway, GM everyone. Um, I've been working on the landing page with Pintocito and Frijo. Uh, we went through another round of feedback, going over the landing page, see what could be better, uh, finding bugs and issues, and just going through that list right now, and it's going really well. And we are very, very close to being done. Very exciting stuff.
That's awesome. Uh, yeah, I think it's going to be a big deal to have a more welcoming, informative, constructive landing page to welcome new people. I feel like even if we've been putting out more content and articles, I can't say that from my perspective the UI itself is really a welcoming place. So starting place is the landing page, and over the next couple months, I think we're going to do significant upgrades to a lot of the different pages on the site to make it smoother and simpler and more intuitive. So the landing page is where we've started, and I know Floyd, you've been hard at work on that for many weeks now. So I hope you're getting close to celebrating. Um, all right, thank you very much for that update, sir. Um, all right, I see a beaver in the chat. Very cool. Very cool. Welcome, Harry. I hope you like your beaver. Um, on that front, maybe we should kick it over to Pintocito. What have you been working on? And maybe you want to tell us a little bit about Beaver Week.
What's up, fella? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Uh, I've been a bit all over the place. It's been very exciting to work on the landing page. I'm excited for that. as well as planning some future upgrades to the UI, including updated copy and a better flow for people coming that don't have their wallet connected and on each of the pages that are currently uh, uh, where people go to do their actions and we feel is a bit unclear or chaotic. Want to give people more guidance on how they use their eyes, what they're supposed to be paying attention to, and make it more direct for people to take certain actions. So excited about that. Uh, we're just right under the 1,000 follower mark on Twitter. So grateful for the team for helping me to produce content on that front and keep chugging. We posted what I thought was a pretty good thread yesterday with some analysis about the protocol's progress and performance recently. So continuing to work on that, continuing to work on articles with Ben, which has been great. I think these are developing a corpus for a comprehensive map of the system, which I think in the future will help us to create a great funnel for people to learn the protocol efficiently. So I feel proud about that. But I guess to the main event of the day, the Beaver Week has commenced. So we just posted the first spotlight, which was, we thought, fitting to shout out an old member of the community who has really been a day one, a loud voice within the community, and someone who has been a leader. I think, and I'm relatively new to the community, I guess, particularly in my role as a contributor, but reflecting to the contributors the standard of communication that is expected and reflecting the perception of the lack of communication, which I know was an issue that led to a lot of frustration in the Beanstalk days of the last couple of years. And I know it's something that the contributors talk about a lot. It's very important that the community is aligned and confident in the project and able to communicate it clearly with external new people who might be interested in it. And we felt that it was only right to honor Harry Smiuff, somebody who is really deserving of recognition within the community for his voice, for his humor, for his content. And we hope, at least I can speak for myself and say, I hope that over time he grows more into the community, feeling proud of it, so that he can feel proud to. I'm so grateful to see him with his Beaver NFT profile picture now. I hope, Harry, that this is something that you can be proud of. And I'm looking forward to shouting out other distinguished members of the community who use their voice for good, who use it to bring life to the Discord, who use it to make content online, who are just excited about Pinto and, see the vision, see that this is something really cool, really important. And people should be thinking about this. People should be talking about it. So I'm grateful to be able to highlight all the different members of our community who contribute in such a special way. So that's the general thinking for us on this front. We're very excited about the Beaver NFTs that we went live with last week, but wanted to just create some special ones to just bring some attention to our community. It's a small one. It's an intimate one, but we feel that it has tremendous potential. It is a strong one. And with people that really care about the project, like Harry, we feel like that's deserving of recognition at minimum. So thank you to all of the people who they've all been sent their NFTs now, with the exception of one whom we're waiting for an address, but we will be highlighting those every day from now forward. So very excited about that.
Thank you very much, Pintocito. Harry, I hope you are happy with your NFT. A lot of thought went into trying to capture your energy appropriately within the Beaver theme, and hope you're hope you're happy. Thank you very much for all that, Pintocito. I'm looking forward to the rest of Beaver Week as well, and highlighting some more community members. All right, let's swing it around. I guess maybe just to give an opportunity, Harry, I don't know if you have anything you wanted to say. I assume not. but we'll pause for a brief couple seconds to see if you had anything you wanted to say. Great. All right, why don't we swing it over to Mr. Juice? What juice we drinking today, sir?
Default juice as always. So this week, I've been mostly working on the generalized hook system, which will allow unripe holders of the Beanstalk shipments for the silo payback to, actually trade their assets once we have a generalized marketplace in place using Tractor, hopefully. So this is done, and other than that, I've been ironing out some bugs. I've been working with Frijo on the deployment pipeline to orchestrate all the different pieces that come into the Beanstalk shipments, testing everything. And today I did a final last run all the tests, and I'll ship over some of the data parsing for review over to Pintocito. And yeah, excited to get this over the finish line, or at least ready for review on next Monday. But that's it from me.
Awesome. Yeah, very exciting. From my perspective, it is a pretty meaningful day when Pinto is able to, in practice, officially honor the debt of Beanstalk that it decided to honor, or we decided to honor when we deployed Pinto. And even though we're still a little ways away from 1 billion supply, as we were chatting about in the general channel last night, yeah, I think this is a meaningful first step. And from my perspective, given how we've seen how the protocol has the ability to grow in major spurts, personally, I'll be able to sleep much better at night knowing that this has already been done and taken care of. So we're never at risk of growing too fast, before, and not having this done before the system actually grows. And I would also say, I think, one of the things that's particularly interesting to me is that we will support a secondary market for each of these assets. Maybe not all at once, the pods, the FERT, and the unripe. But from my perspective, it's also a meaningful thing for people that want to get out, Beanstalk holders that really don't care and don't want to wait around, for them to be able to exit and the ownership of those assets to be transferred to people that are excited about the protocol. That's also very bullish in general from the health of the protocol. So I think getting this out there and then supporting secondary markets for all this stuff is very meaningful. And yeah, I'm excited about it. Thank you very much, Juice. All right, let's swing it over to Pinto Pirate. What's up, sir?
So for me, I guess while we're on the subject of the Beanstalk shipments, I'll just share that I'm working with Default Juice on that a bit. We're going to be doing some final checks in the coming days just to get ready for that deployment. But other than that, the main thing I've been focusing on is getting the subgraphs and the bots and just all the data side ready for the upcoming upgrade for PI 12, which will include the convert up bonus. So yeah, just getting a lot of that data tracked in our subgraph so that we'll be able to add some charting for it to the UI once that goes live. And as it pertains to the bots, I have some stuff that I've set up in the Gauge channel for there already. But I think another thing I would like to do is, like, when somebody actually, performs one of those converts, we can kind of show how much of the bonus was applied, like, to that individual convert, like in the bot message that the silo channel would send. I think that'll probably come after the deployment, just because the other thing that I'm working on is supporting on the API side for Tractor the convert order book. So that's going to be, the new blueprint that'll be coming out soon as well. So I'm working on getting that all supported so we can have all that tracked for the UI to show data on. I think those are the main things I've been working on.
Thank you very much, sir. That's exciting stuff. I know how much infrastructure work goes into supporting all these complex upgrades, particularly at this stage of the game where something like the convert bonus is an incredibly sophisticated piece of the puzzle. I think probably the most sophisticated piece of the puzzle that we've added so far. So,
Totally.
yeah, very, very grateful to you for all the work on that. And I know how meticulous you are to make sure that all that is done properly. So thank you very much. All right, let's swing it over to Burr. How are you doing, sir?
GM.
GM.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Amazing. Yeah, so this week I've mainly just been working on the convert order book UX. It has been, I'm getting pretty close to a working version of it on the UI. It has been like slightly more, well, a lot more complicated to build than I had initially thought. And so, I just wanted to apologize to all the devs and the community for taking some additional time on this. But, just want to make sure it gets done correctly. And yeah, should be out hopefully soon.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all your work on this, and I know you've taken a lot of pride in doing this really well. Yeah, and appreciate your accountability as well. Yeah, it's a really big and complex upgrade, so I know supporting it has not been the easiest thing in the world. And as it stands now, I think you're going to end up getting over the finish line slightly before the rest of the stuff is already. So, yeah, it is what it is. But appreciate very much your attention to detail and accountability here.
Thank you.
All right. So those are all the contributors that are here at the moment. We got a good crew today. And now what we're going to do is we're going to open up the floor. I saw Minato in the general chat was asking for a meeting with the PCM, which isn't possible. So I suggested that they bring up their concern or whatever their issue was. I assume it's related to the Immunify bug bounty report they submitted recently. So the floor is open for anyone. Minato, if you wanted to share and engage, now it's a good time. Yeah, the floor is open. I see that Minato responded that they'd prefer to have the conversation in a more private room. Frankly, I'm not sure what there is to talk about privately with this bug bounty, so I would ask that to the extent you're comfortable, you talk about it now. Frankly, when it comes to this stuff and security, I think it's very important that we maintain a culture of openness, and we're generally very proud of how we've handled this bug bounty thing with Immunify, even if I understand that you're a bit disappointed with the outcome. So we're happy to talk about it here, and in fact would appreciate it. All right. Well, no requirement to share, sir, but this is the right forum to do so. All right. I see Brendan joined the chat, one of the original members of Publius. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Yo, what's up? Doing good. It's a beautiful day
Yeah.
on
What
the
do you,
farm. Just hanging
yeah.
out in the fields, laying back in my chair, basking in the sun. It's a nice day. Of
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thanks for being here.
course. Of course.
All right. The floor is open if there's anything on people's minds. Otherwise, I'm going to get on my soapbox and start talking about what I've been thinking about on the farm. All right. There's probably a couple different things to talk about. One is let's start with the price action, which is the main thing the protocol is optimizing around. Obviously, the crypto market's come down quite a bit over the past week or so, and generally, at the same time, ETH did pump and is sort of close to all-time highs. Sol is back up a little bit, but BTC is down. I think it's been interesting to see that Pinto has actually sort of underperformed over this period of time, where basically most of the assets, if you look over the past week, most of the assets are up quite a bit. And at the same time, I guess ETH is sort of down a little bit. Sorry, I was misreading the chart because we have the wrapped ETH and the ETH on the same page. But nonetheless, what I was saying stands, which is that the protocol has really had a week of underperformance. And I think this is an interesting point in time because on the one hand, the stock system continues to demonstrate quite a significant amount of efficacy with respect to as it's been designed. And we have an article coming out pretty soon to explain this a little bit more. The stock system is designed such that when people are going to leave, if they're going to leave before the system really grows again, they're incentivized to leave immediately. And as a result, even though the protocol's been underperforming a bit and has been below the value target over the past week or so, we really haven't had any sort of significant outflows. And at the same time, one of the things that I saw in the general chat was Nico basically saying, why is it that the protocol basically is not incentivizing converts at the moment? And there's two elements here. One is the system is currently below its excessively low L2SR limit, which is to say that there's a lower bound on the liquidity to supply ratio, where below that, the system is considered unhealthy from a liquidity perspective. And at those lower levels, basically the system tries to preserve as much liquidity as possible. Now, the result is, even though there's no people leaving, there's also really no people converting such that the system returns to its value target. And in my mind, this is an inefficiency in the system. And so part of what we've been thinking about in conjunction with this convert bonus is ultimately the bonus, the way that it's currently designed, wouldn't have the bonus amount go up in these instances where the L2SR is excessively low. And so it sort of begs the question, like, if the L2SR is excessively low, but the system is generally healthy from the perspective of outflows, like no one's leaving, isn't the right thing to do for the protocol to return to its value target in a swift fashion? I think the answer is yes. And so then there's sort of like a question like, well, is it that there shouldn't be a lower limit in the L2SR below which the crop ratio comes down, where the system no longer really incentivizes converts? For me, it's hard to think that shouldn't exist at some liquidity level, but sort of the thinking, and Frio and I have been going back and forth about this a little bit, is, well, maybe it should be that level, instead of having it hard set as a parameter, should be part of the autonomous mechanism of the protocol, whereby basically the system should be in such a way where if there's no outflows, even if we have an excessively low amount of liquidity, basically maybe that excessively low amount of liquidity should be adjusted downward. B, if you could just mute, that'd be great. And I think that is really, Frio made the point, like right now, none of these parameters adjust like the limits within the debt level or the liquidity level, or even the price level with respect to converts. None of those things are autonomous at the moment. Those are hard-coded parameters. And so this would be really a material shift in what the autonomous component of the mechanism is doing. And at some level, we are trying to make it such that we're consistently pushing out the frontier in which the protocol is acting autonomously, or the protocol is responding in real time or every season to its data, and minimizing the amount of the system that is hard coded. But I think to me, the interesting part of this discussion is, well, the time to lower this liquidity excessively low threshold is really dependent on data across multiple seasons. Like, the thing that makes it safe for the protocol to lower this threshold, ultimately increase the crop ratio, and once the bonus is live, to increase the bonus, is the fact that there are no outflows over an extended period of time. And that's really a different thing, particularly when I say a different thing, measuring activity over more than just the previous 2 seasons that are factored into the peg maintenance model. And this is something that we actually talked about, going on, I think maybe two and a half years ago, when we created that presentation on the Beanstalk state space that really outlined how the system currently only considers basically the data over the previous season and the prior season. And I guess I should say the penultimate season. No, I guess it isn't. Sorry. My English isn't that great, I guess. But the point is, in order to do this type of adjustment properly, and it can be done, it requires quite a material change to the overall peg maintenance model from the perspective of increasing the time over which things are looked back on. And of course, that would be a parameter, and we could make that automated as well. But the expectation would be that would sort of be a parameter to start. Then there's a question of like, well, what is the data that you're looking at? But all of this is to say, I think we are, and this is part of the beauty of having a live system, we are in real time discovering certain inefficiencies in the model. And I would suggest that the inefficiency in the model at this point is that we sort of reach this edge case where we have an arbitrarily parameterized, excessively low liquidity threshold. And now the system isn't really incentivizing converts, even though from a macro perspective, I think it's pretty clear, like, we should want converts given the current circumstances. So that's, I think, room for improvement. At this point, it's unclear whether we're going to try to sort of sprint to get this type of improvement implemented in the PI 12, which will include the convert bonus, or whether we're going to push that out a little bit further. The main issue is, given that we're currently below the excessively low threshold for liquidity, it is one of those things where it's like, well, the system's not really going to do much, if you know what I mean. Even once we implement the bonus isn't going to increase, so it's not really going to act in practice. So the other thing that we've been thinking about is changing the excessively low L2SR threshold as sort of a one-time change, where right now the L2SR is at 9.25%. I believe the excessively low L2SR threshold is 12%. So we're a bit below that, but not too much. And I guess the point is, if we did that, that would sort of change the way that the crop ratio is functioning, and get the bonus to work in practice. And that should, in practice, make it such that the system is able to properly incentivize converts back to the value target, which is the desired behavior. I would just highlight that we are trying to, as much as possible, avoid these sort of one-time changes to the parameters in favor of changing the mechanism itself, which feels like a much healthier, more sustainable and value-aligned way to fix these problems as they come up. But at the same time, there really isn't a good justification for why the protocol isn't incentivizing converts given its current state. And again, that's influenced by the fact that we've been below the value target for quite some time. There really is not any sort of significant outflows from the system. So the fact that we're below the value target really, from my perspective, is a result of improper or not imperfect, maybe it's a better way to say it, mechanism design. And this is the beauty of having something out in the wild that people are using, where we can really see what's going on and find the edge cases and stuff within the model that really can be improved. And this would be a significant improvement to make these thresholds autonomous. I think then the question is, well, if we're going to make some of them autonomous and we're going to increase the look back period by quite some time for certain instances or certain pieces of the puzzle, what other pieces of the puzzle do we want to do that to? I don't think we necessarily have to do it all at once, but it's just in general the way that we try to do a lot of this development work. We don't like to do we don't like to do one-off changes to thresholds as much as possible. Although in certain instances like this one, it may make sense to do. And then more generally, we don't want to just make one change, particularly one that really has a major change in how we've been ingesting data from the model's perspective historically, and not do a larger analysis as to what are all the other places where we would want to do that. But in the short term, that may be what we do to get the ball rolling and fix this edge case, and then sort of take it from there. So that's the first thing that I've been thinking about with respect to the price action and how it relates to the convert mechanism and the convert bonus that's been happening, or that's been very close to development, very close to implementation. So I know I said a lot there. Going to pause for a bit, see if people have questions about that, see if anyone has comments about it, maybe some thoughts, and then we'll take it from there. So the floor is open again.
I think it might be helpful if you briefly summarize everything you just said. Sorry to make you do that, but I think it might be clear.
Sure. So I appreciate that very much, Pintocito. I know I ramble a bit here. This is off the dome. The TLDR is right now, the protocol is below its excessively low L2SR ratio, its liquidity to supply ratio. As it's currently parameterized, when the system is below its excessively low liquidity to supply ratio, it tries its best to preserve liquidity and prioritizes issuing debt as a way to return to the value target instead of converts, which have the potential, if in response to the converts, people leave the system, to sell, which would decrease the liquidity. And we are currently in that situation. So the result is the crop ratio has come down to 50%, which is the minimum crop ratio, such that the system is maximally disincentivizing, if you will, converts from LP to Pinto. The result is, even though we find ourselves in a situation where there's really no volume or significant volume leaving the system, there's no sell pressure generally, not to say it's zero, but there's very limited sell pressure, such that in such an instance, you would want the protocol naturally to return to its value target, in practice, really by incentivizing converts if there's not enough demand for soil. Right now, because we're below the L2SR, there is the excessively low L2SR. There's no converts happening. So the result is we don't have anyone leaving, but we also don't have any protocol native incentive at the moment to convert to the value target. And this has been discovered as an inefficiency in the model. And so in the context of the convert bonus that's coming out soon, even with the convert bonus, based on the fact that we're below the excessively low L2SR right now, the convert bonus won't have any effect. And so we are considering two options to fix this. One is to, as a one-time change the excessively low L2SR threshold to be something below where we are currently. Right now, we're at 9.25%. We would lower it to somewhere between 5 and 8%, such that the crop ratio would come back up and the convert bonus would have an effect, and we will actually see how that works out in the wild. Whereas if we keep the L2SR excessively low ratio at its current ratio, which is 12%, nothing's really going to happen when we deploy the convert bonus. The other thing that we're considering is to make the excessively low L2SR threshold dynamic, such that based on multiple season look back, where it can evaluate, okay, like no one's leaving the system. Therefore, even though we want to be very conservative with our liquidity, there's a reasonable expectation that if there are some converts, that's not going to lead to significant amounts of liquidity leaving the system. Therefore, it's safe to lower the limit. However, this would be the first time that we implement a larger season look back beyond just the previous 2 seasons. And so we are treading lightly with respect to implementing such a change. And it's unclear whether at this point the right thing to do is to just lower the excessively low L2SR threshold or to implement some autonomous mechanism to change it. Particularly given if we were going to implement a multiple season look back beyond 2 seasons, there are probably other things within the system that we would want to change. It's just that doing so would likely take a lot of time. And right now we do want to see how the convert bonus mechanism works. So the 2 choices that we're really looking at right now seriously are, one, to just make a one-time change to the L2SR excessively low threshold, and the other is to implement a multiple season look back and some autonomous mechanism, but only with respect to this one threshold, and then future consideration will take into account other data and other parameters that could be changed, and other parts of the mechanism that can be changed via the multiple season look back. So hopefully that's a clear summary, even though it's quite complex.
Yeah, I found that very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, it seems like the dynamic excessive L2SR metric would be much better, but I understand given the time constraints of doing so, that might not be the optimal play at this point.
Curious if anyone else has thoughts or questions about what I've been talking about. It's really interesting.
I mean, when you say a one-time change, does that mean that it's it would be a permanent change to the L2SR, or is the idea that it would be one time, but it would revert back at some point?
The short answer is it would probably just be a change that we would lower it from 12% to call it 6% or something once, with the expectation that we don't change it back. But what we would do is then figure out how to automate this mechanism moving forward, if that makes sense, and then hope to implement that sooner rather than later, such that we wouldn't have to change it again, if that makes sense.
But when you say automate it moving forward, that means it would change in the future, but it just wouldn't be done arbitrarily?
That's right.
Yeah. And by doing that, you could get the benefit of doing the dynamic metric anyway, just later.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like that's where things are going to go. Like, candidly, this is the first time that we've found ourselves in a circumstance where the only way to really implement the right mechanism when the protocol, like in the short term, has demonstrated a need for a particular mechanism is to do a more than 2 season look back. And so, frankly, it's a pretty big moment for the protocol, if you will. Like, we've tried to, in our development, move step by step and make these changes in such a way where we are actively responding to the current state of the protocol, and at the same time trying to minimize the complexity of the mechanism. Like, one of the principles in the original model of Beanstalk was to make it as simple as possible while doing what it had to do. And since then, we've been in an iterative way responding to the model and responding to the data collected by the model. And up until this point, there's always been, if we went for a multiple season look back, we have more data, we can analyze it more sophisticatedly, there are different things we can do if we have more data from a multiple seasons perspective. But there really hasn't been a moment until now where the model has really demanded, where the people, the data generated by the model has demanded that we implement a multiple season look back. So from my perspective, it's honestly quite a big deal. Where now it's like, not to say that we don't have a choice. We can obviously just do like a one-time arbitrary change, but in line with the spirit of how we've been responding to the state of the system historically, honestly, it's a pretty big moment for the system that we're at a point where it's like, oh, okay, like now is the time to implement a more than 2-season look back and consider more historical data. Now, of course, it's like as soon as this is a can of worms. There's a reason why we haven't done that so far. It's like, well, how many seasons do you look back on? Is that fixed? Is that dynamic? What is the data that you're collecting across multiple seasons? Is it convert data? Is it inflows and outflows, new deposits and withdrawals? Is it sowing data? It's probably all of the above. And then how do you analyze that data and create a coherent picture for what's actually happening within the system? So it is, on the one hand, very exciting. On the other hand, it's a little intimidating. Like this really is, the protocol is calling for a big upgrade. And I think it's very exciting. I'm grateful for the team that's here. In particular, Frijo, who's been an incredible collaborator of mine, as we think through the ins and outs of the weeds on all this stuff and how to implement it in Solidity within the constraints of the EVM. And it is a pretty big moment for the protocol, honestly.
I mean, congratulations. Sounds awesome. I'm wondering how valuable you think it is to implement this can of worms, which obviously you would want to do meticulously, especially because it has other use cases once you start doing it, compared to focusing our efforts on other features that we want to add or upgrades to the front end, for example.
Well, the good thing is this type of change really wouldn't be too much of a lift on the front end side. Like, there's not a lot of features that are associated with something like this. This is like a pure peg maintenance thing, such that we wouldn't really require, other than maybe some new charts. So we need Pinto Pirate on the subgraphs to develop that. There really isn't too much work on the front end, let's call it. This is more of a back end Solidity thing. And so in my mind, it is possible for us to continue sort of full steam ahead with all the front end work and really improving the funnel, as we talked about on last town hall, and making it such that we can continue to make Pinto as a protocol from a UX perspective much more welcoming to new users and existing users and intuitive. But in my mind, there's a couple like major things on the UX side we're focused on, other than just the front end itself. Really building out the tractor functionality and making it such that people can use the protocol in an automated fashion. I think that work should also continue. But when we talk about what are the next major things to do on the back end, other than the Beanstalk shipments, which we talked about a little bit earlier, the next real piece of development that was slated is the fork system, which is our permissionless governance system that's been designed over the course of the past couple years in response to the Beanstalk exploit and what happened with the Beanstalk DAO, where we really do want to have the same level of trustlessness and permissionlessness of the governance of the protocol itself, without any of the risks of having a DAO governed by any sort of monetary weighting. And I would say the fork system, as it's designed, is significantly more permissionless in nature, and is likely to lead to even more free experimentation within the Beanstalk ecosystem, let's call it. So the big question to me is, at this point, like, would we want to slate that larger model upgrade before we implement the fork system, which does sort of push back the time in which the PCM is still going to be the main controller of the state of the currency, or the state of the model, if you will, as opposed to implementing the fork system and then perhaps implementing this multiple season look back period thereafter. And maybe that can be like the first upgrade that is done via the fork system. So that's sort of the current trade-off space on the development front that I currently see. And I understand that we still haven't really put out a roadmap document, and so from that perspective, it may be a little bit difficult to, for people to necessarily wrap their head around what all the different development pieces that are happening at the moment. But we're hoping to put out a roadmap document soon to alleviate some of that potential dissonance. But to answer your question, it's like, I think the real question is, do we slot in this multiple season look back before or after the fork system? I don't know if you're responding, Pintocito, but you're muted.
No, I don't think so.
Cheers. All right, we have just about 8 minutes left until the top of the hour. Gonna open up the floor again to see if people have questions, comments about really anything I've been saying, and so on and so forth. The floor is open. All right, so one of the other things that I want to talk about, if there's time, which, again, if people have questions, feel free to just chime in. I want to make sure that we use this time to answer stuff that's on the community's mind. But I also have some, there's a lot that I think it's healthy to talk about at this point in time. If you look at some of the data in the field, I think one of the things that we've really gotten right over this iteration cycle within Pinto is the mechanism with the cultivation factor. And I think the big fix there was when we implemented the cultivation temperature, which originally, if people recall, when we implemented the soil snowball without tractor, there was just way too high friction for people to lend to the protocol, and because there wasn't that much soil anymore, and the cultivation factor never really increased. But once we implemented tractor, we discovered an edge case in the implementation where basically the temp would go down in response to the soil selling out, and then in response to the temp going down, because the tractor orders were sort of at a lower limit. There was a limit order from a temperature perspective. The soil wouldn't sell out the next season, and then the cultivation factor would go down in response to that. And so the cultivation factor sort of got stuck. And in response to that, we implemented something called the cultivation temperature that basically tracks the high point of the temperature in which the cultivation factor last went up, and doesn't lower the cultivation factor until we reach that temperature again. And since then, we've actually seen a tremendous efficacy, I would call it, in the field, where as tractor orders come in, what we see is the cultivation factor generally increasing over time to meet the demand for soil from the tractor order until the tractor order gets filled, even if it takes a couple seasons or a day or sometimes more, depending on the size of the order, where the soil is consistently selling out. But at the same time, the temperature has remained generally constant. And so it feels like we really have found a sweet spot on the temperature, and also found a sweet spot with respect to how the system responds to demand for soil, where, one of the important pieces of the mechanism is to just demonstrate demand for soil itself. And if the system is offering soil and no one's buying it, that really hurts the creditworthiness of the protocol. And so part of the purpose of the cultivation factor is to limit the amount of soil such that the system isn't offering tens of thousands of soil, or in the OG days of Beanstalk, hundreds of thousands of soil when there's no demand, and instead starting the amount of soil available to be a very low amount, and then increasing it to meet demand and sort of discover the demand, if you will. And it's been very encouraging to see the latest version of the field snowball with the cultivation temperature really closely track the demand for soil, and increase it steadily. And then when the tractor order expires, basically very quickly lower the cultivation factor again, lowering the amount of soil such that the system is not logging very many seasons where the soil is high and the demand for soil is low. And I think generally this does generate a lot of creditworthiness. Now, there's like the next order of discussion on this particular topic as well is, if the temperature were at a higher rate, is it likely that the system would attract more demand for soil such that it could reduce the supply more effectively, and return to its value target via the field more instead of converts? It's a very interesting question to think about. My instinct is that the current way that the temperature works, such that we're consistently experiencing demand for soil, where it is selling out up to a period of time in the 650, 700 temperature range, is quite healthy and sustainable from a debt issuance perspective. And if you look at what was happening before we implemented the soil snowball and tractor in particular, the temp was skyrocketing. So the temp was going as high as 1400 or so before we implemented the tractor, and that's not sustainable. So at a high level, I think this is one of those things that, as I look at and continue to evaluate the performance of the mechanism that we've implemented, I'm very pleased with the way that the system is working. And if you look at the sown Pinto over time, we have had over the past couple of months pretty consistent demand to sow Pinto, even if it's not a ton of Pinto, if you will. Like right now, it seems like it's about 25,000 over the past month or so. It's doing it in a very healthy and sustainable fashion. And I don't know if we sort of raise the base cultivation factor. This is something to experiment with potentially. Would that result in an increase in the amount of some Pinto? This is sort of where we're at in terms of the field. Like, is there a way to wall continuing with the efficiency of the system, such that it's not lending at excessively high rates, increase the amount of Pinto that are sown? So this is, I think it generally reflects quite positively on the overall system. Like, the mechanism has been really fine-tuned from finding the amount of temperature and adjusting the amount of soil to meet demand. And now it's like, okay, well, is there a way for us to tweak, and it is really a tweak at this point, the amount of soil available such that more soil is going to be sown week to week and month to month. So, that's another interesting thing I've been looking at. Of course, there's endless little nooks and crannies within the model that we're paying attention to that are all pretty interesting to look at and think about. One thing I'd be curious about is some feedback from people on whether this type of analysis that's pretty niche and in the weeds, whether it's helpful and interesting to people and their understanding of the protocol, or whether it would be more helpful to talk about basic components of the mechanism. But that's sort of another thing I've been looking at the moment. So I know we're at the top of the hour. I'm going to open up the floor for maybe some quick responses or questions, and then try to wrap this up. All right. Thank you for everyone for coming. Harry, that PFP looks beautiful. I hope you enjoy it. And I hope everyone has a great Beaver week. Talk soon, everyone. Peace.